South Africa finished the tournament on a high with a victory over an unbeaten side and one of the pre-tournament favourites, England. 189 for 2 they put on in a sterling batting display, and England falling just 10 runs short. But as far as the 189 was concerned, South Africa looked as if they had it under control for much of the innings, even though the 131 was pretty much out of reach as far as them qualifying for the semi-finals. South Africa winning by 10. It's England and Australia who are officially the semi-finalists from that particular group. They joined Pakistan, one spot up for grabs. Afghanistan, India, New Zealand, all in the reckoning. We'll come to that later. For now, it's time to celebrate a great South African performance. May not have taken them to the semi-finals, but they leave this tournament on a high, having showed the world exactly what they're capable of. On Cricbuzz Live, Dinesh Karthik, Zaheer Khan join us. DK, we talked about this earlier. 131, not likely. 191, they had a contest and they made it count.
Most definitely. I think we all knew that 180, 131 was going to be hard, and 190 rather for England was going to be hard as well. And it perfectly played out for both teams. I think both teams got a lot out of this game. I think South Africa obviously can walk back to South Africa with their heads held high, knowing that they've played a fabulous tournament. They've exceeded expectations, and they really played well as a unit. They batted out of the skin today and fielded very well as well. Just that the bowling couldn't stop them at 130, but you can't really fault the bowlers. I thought in those conditions on a pretty flat Sharjah pitch, they did really well. And for England, most importantly, all their batters up to number 11 got a hit, which hadn't happened for so long. They had, one team, they got them all out for 55, another one for 85. So it is good to see everybody getting a hit, and all of them look in good touch. Even the ones who played 2-3 balls like the Chris Wokes and Morgan, who batted very little, but showed glimpses of what they can do if needed. If you do see the scorecard, there's not even a 50 there, but still they managed to get 179. Goes to show everybody has chipped in a bit. And some of the sixes that Lime Livingston did hit was a treat to watch.
Yeah, 3 in a row of Kagiso Rabada, one of them going 112 meters. We had 111 from Big Dre Russ, and that's been outclassed by Liam Livingston. I think we'll come to South Africa in a moment, but looking at England's positives, they would have said, even if we don't get over the line, we need to tick a few boxes before getting into that semi-final. And one of them would have been for someone like a Livingston to get a hit in the middle. And boy, what a hit it was.
Yes, the batters getting hit. I think more importantly, having a tough game before they play the semi-finals. More often than not, we've seen that teams who have it very easy in the group stages, when it comes to knockout, at times they don't get themselves going. And from England's point of view, it's not a bad thing to have such a high quality game. I think today's game, in terms of the cricket which was played, was top quality cricket. So leading into the semis, their spot was secured anyways, but they've not been challenged. That's what I was saying, that England so far in the tournament have not been challenged. Good to have a game like this under the belt. Feel that pressure. That it's not going to get easier now. 2 important days from England's point of view. The kind of cricket which they've been playing, the scorecard is a reflection of that. They're going to play attacking, aggressive cricket, but they've been pushed to the limit today, and that's something which they have a lot to take forward. And I still feel that the way they are playing, finer tinkering here and there, but on the whole, this England side is looking a strong contender for the finals.
Certainly looking a strong contender. Just quickly going back to that points table, normally you look at a team who have won 4, lost 1, 8 points on the board. And in contrast to the other group, 8 points here was not good enough to take South Africa through to the semi-finals. Pakistan got to 8. They haven't even played their last game, already automatically qualified for the semi-finals. Group of death, this is what tends to happen in a group of death. But nonetheless, kudos to South Africa for that victory. DK, you mentioned at the start, with all that's happening in their country, with the fact that everything that happened with the Quinton de Kock affair during the tournament, these are things they'll want to put beyond them and say, we won 4 out of 5, and we can, as you said, go with their heads held high.
Definitely. I think, for some time now, they've kept having these tag as chokers and all that. I think this new South African team, they came in under a lot of pressure. They obviously hadn't played great cricket. Yes, they beat Sri Lanka in Sri Lanka, but before and after that, they hadn't done much against other nations who have been playing good T20 cricket. To come here, be part of the group of death, and still end up winning 4 games out of the 5. I think is a very commendable effort. They won. They played some real tight cricket. They exceeded expectations. They made all the obvious use of the talent they had, and most importantly, they beat the number one side in the world, and that will give them a lot of confidence. And this should keep them in good stead going forward. In 12 months' time, you should expect a better performance from South Africa on wickets, which will aid their fast bowlers even more, and that should be even better to watch. The world of cricket needs South Africa in good space, and I think in many ways they've shown the world that they're a good cricketing nation.
And not often you have a situation where a guy who just looks as if he's being carted to every corner of the park, 3 overs for 45 runs, comes in his fourth over, picks up a hat trick. Yes, indeed, folks, if you missed that, Kagiso Rabada recording a hat trick there, finishing with figures of 4 overs, 3 for 48. The final over, 3 singles, 3 wickets, just when England could have just sneaked it, and that would have made such a difference. England would have gone as unbeaten team, still in the semi-finals. South Africa would have gone with just a sour taste in the mouth. So for Rabada, redemption, but yeah, he'd still have a few things he wants to look at for the first 3 overs here.
He's a quality bowler, and it was a high scoring match. So things can go anywhere, and you got to just again realize the importance of 1 over in this format. So as a bowler, as a bowling unit, if you have to address your bowling unit, this is the way it should be, right? Like, in a high scoring game, when the teams are coming strong at you, you can change the game with 1 over. Whether you believe it or not, whether you have that kind of quality or not, that is something is your lookout. And it's great to see that even if you're having a tough day, look at the earlier game as well. Josh Hazlewood going for 20 runs, coming back, picking 2 wickets in that over, next over, and then things become easier, and that's what happened with Rabada as well today. What was important from South Africa's point was to finish on a high, get 2 points under their belt. Rabada defended 13 of the last over. So all it came down to was the last over. You had to defend that over to secure 2 points for your team, and he did that for the team.
And his reaction was priceless. I mean, there are many who have taken a hat trick. Obviously, he will go and do a lap of honor of the field. His own teammate, countryman Imran Tahir, would have done 100 meters minimum. But he just was laughing out loud, saying, after those first 3 overs, did I really pick up a hat trick? Wow, pat on the back for myself. But from England's point of view, DK, the one souring note, they won't mind the 2 points being lost because they still finish on top of the group. The souring note is the loss of Jason Roy. By all accounts, that's the end of the tournament for him.
It did look like that. It looked like he had a pretty bad calf strain, I would think. He couldn't walk. You could see his emotions come out on the field. He was pretty disappointed with himself and nature, I guess, in many ways, because he's not able to control it. And, hamstring and calf, they're a bit recurring, these injuries. Once you get it the first time, more often than not, irrespective of how much you train, it's such a very fragile part of the body. And a lot of the running is based on those two muscles that it happens more often than not that it keeps recurring. And you could feel the pain. An England team will feel the loss of Roy if he's not here for the tournament. It happened in the World Cup as well when he didn't play in between. In 2019 World Cup, he started and then he got an injury, didn't play. You could see the dip in form. The way Roy and Butler started makes a massive difference. When you're preparing for to bowl against England, you're always wary because two different types of players and two very, let's say multi-dimensional players. And Roy missing out will be a major miss. It'll be very interesting to see who they're going to open with. They have a few choices. I do think it'll be between Billings and Bairstow. So it's going to be a very interesting semi-final for England, but I still feel they have it in them to go the distance this time.
Yeah, I'm just going to throw one more name in the mix there. Yeah, logically, Bairstow is one who slots in there. Billings is an outsider who comes in that sense from the squad. Liam Livingstone, Zaheer, for you, is he a contender as well? Because he's had some time out in the middle. We've seen him open even in the IPL. Could he perhaps be in Morgan's plans?
That's going to be a interesting one for sure because we don't know how they are looking at it. Like, it's in terms of, we know they want to play aggressive attacking cricket, but when you look at the experience of opening, Bairstow is maybe the right choice. He has done it more often. He has been in those situations, the high pressure situations which I'm talking about. Semi-final is not just another game. So that's something which will definitely be there on the think tank's mind. The questions which they need to answer, but they will still want to maybe. Moeen Ali is another name, which is coming to my mind right now as I'm speaking. They can think of that as well, because today also he came to bat at number 3. He's been their floater. I mean, a guy who is used to batting in different positions. So they might think of him as that floater option, going at number 1 or 2, so that your other stability in the batting order is maintained. The other role designation is secured rather than changing too many things.
Yeah, interesting one. We've got many contenders then. That could be a left field contender, the left-handed left field contender in Moeen Ali. Another little box that they did tick. Obviously, there were a few others. Dawid Malan, brief stay, but again, looked good enough. He hadn't done it earlier in the tournament quite enough, but that's another slight relief for Owen Morgan.
Yes, I think Malan is a very interesting case study. He is in the ICC T20 batting rankings. He's number 2 in the world. I mean, most teams would love to have him, but in an England team, the kind of cricket they play, they're trying to figure him out. When they're chasing 190, they seem to say, okay, let me send a Moeen Ali ahead of him. So they have their plans, a bit like their bowling. They use matchups and they figure out when to send a David Malan. Today, he batted at number 5, a tad too low for him, but that's the beauty of the England team as well. They have a very fluid batting lineup, and different people bat at different positions, and more often than not, they all deliver. I still feel Bairstow is a great choice as an opener for Butler, because they like to, get off to a firing start, and both those batters can do. And the fact that every time Bairstow's come in, he's kind of struggled to start a bit against the wrist spinners, which could again happen in against New Zealand or India, whoever they play against, which we would know, I guess, in a couple of days' time. But for the moment, Malan has looked good, and that's a good sign. For that matter, the whole batting unit has looked good. Everybody has chipped in and got enough scores to say they're ready to play the semi-final, and that's a very, very good sign for England.
Yeah, well, technically speaking, Afghanistan an outside chance still. If obviously India will be supporting Afghanistan with all their might, hoping they beat New Zealand, but by a narrow margin. However, if Afghanistan managed to record a massive victory, India still, of course, have it in their hands to then replicate that against Namibia and jump again over Afghanistan on net run rate. But yeah, chief contenders, New Zealand and India. But for now, it's England lost the game, still in the semi-final. South Africa won the game out of the tournament. But there was another game in the afternoon, and that's the reason why South Africa had to struggle, because they were obviously rooting for the West Indies to do them a favor. They didn't in either way, in terms of net run rate or the result itself. 157 for 7 is all the West Indies put up, and we've seen with the context of the night game how it really looked under par, and it was. Australia making easy meat of it. 16.2 overs, 161 for 2, led by David Warner's 89 of 56 deliveries. Mitchell Marsh too, chipping in, more than chipping in, 53 of 32. So Australia, after that defeat to England, looking really good. Quick word, I know we've analysed that game. Quick word, gentlemen, on Australia and how good they're looking. That one blip, but just like England's defeat, Australia will look upon that as, yes, we had our bad day, now we're going upwards.
Yeah. You want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I just left that out of the air.
No, it's all right. I do think that Australia played a very good brand of cricket today, and most importantly, at the start of the tournament, I felt David Warner will be one of the top run getters, and obviously he hadn't come with too much form or match practice post IPL, but I think in this tournament again he's found form, and you can see the way he batted, especially today. The strike rate, the kind of shots that he played, he's very much back to what he's doing really good, opening the innings and making sure he gets the team off to a flying start. And the beauty about David Warner is, more often than not, when he's chasing, if he gets the team off to a good start, he doesn't give up. He keeps going that distance and tries to stay not out. And I think that's a very, very credible attitude to have as a batter. And that's what I like about Warner. He's already in the top 5 run getters in the tournament, I'm sure. And that is very, very important, because for Australia to cross the line, they need a David Warner to do well. He has the ability to play spin well and fast bowling well. So it's going to be a very important cog in the wheel. Mitchell Marsh obviously chipped in, batted brilliantly. I think he was able to absorb pressure and do well. At the end of the day, he got out to the right person as well. Chris Gayle, who put a smile on everybody's face who watched the game. So overall, it was a great game of cricket. And, 2 legends of the game from West Indies, bid goodbye to world cricket. So In all, by all means, I think today has been a very, very interesting day. Zach had said yesterday that today is a very, very absorbing day's cricket, and it is exactly panned out that way.
Certainly lived up to it, both the games. The second one, a cracker. But at least Australia will already know who their semi-final opponent is, unless something goes bizarrely wrong, which it can't at the moment. It's Australia versus Pakistan. So Australia will know whatever they've done in the tournament so far. They came slightly unstuck against England, but they'll be coming up against a very serious bowling attack. So having these guys in form and their experience to deal with the likes of Shaheen Shah Afridi and Haris Rauf and company will be important, Zaheer.
So right now, if you compare their side to England's performance, it's pretty much similar, isn't it? Having one tough game, they just lost to England. England just lost to South Africa. Played some good cricket right throughout, good consistent cricket, and Australia has looked like they've been picking momentum in the last couple of games. They were looking positive. The intent was good, so that is something which they will take pride in. And after a long time, you will be seeing Australia in this kind of a position, where you're actually looking like this team can win the semis and then have a good day in the finals and win the cup as well. That's the kind of feeling you're getting, because the parts which you're seeing when you're looking at this playing 11, it's showing you exactly that. It's about just basically finding momentum at the right time, and building on it. You look at that playing 11, and you have Warner, Finch, Marsh, Maxwell playing a part. So it's all looking good for them. The bowling has been their strength, but they got the options as well in their lineup.
I think we're not the only one who wants Zaheer's opinion on the game. He's getting calls left, right, and center. Tell us what happened. But for the moment, let me go to DK. Mitchell Marsh, another important cog in the wheel. We just saw him briefly the other day when he came ahead of Glenn Maxwell to finish the game. But the outing he had today against the West Indies will be very important going ahead of a semi-final.
Definitely. I think even the small knock that he played the previous game will give him a lot of confidence, because he was very, very good with his shot selection. Some of the shots that he played were very good. Today, he played a very interesting shot. You're not used to seeing Mitchell Marsh reverse sweeping a spinner, but he got down on his knees and played the reverse sweep, which is very interesting for me. Shows that obviously he's added that to his shots, to his repertoire of shots, which is very, very good. As I said, Mitchell Marsh played a very, very good knock, 32 balls, 53. But the key was the intent that he showed right at the outset. And the most beautiful part of it was when he got going, he took the team almost to victory before getting out to the right person and put a smile on everybody's face. And that was the best part of the day for me.
Yeah, it certainly was. For those of you who are wondering what we are talking about, yes, it was Christopher Henry Gale, just before walking into the sunset, was tossed the ball by the skipper, and he came in to bowl an over. He actually had a chance early in the over. There was a mis-stumping, and then right at the end, he picks up the wicket of Mitchell Marsh. Instead of going to his teammates, he went straight to Marsh, jumped on his shoulder and said, "Thanks, mate, for that wicket." What a heartwarming moment, DK.
Absolutely. Yeah. In many ways, I don't think Chris Gale and Australia have been a good marriage over a period of time, but it was just very anticlimactic, and in many ways, very nice to see that, all the burnt bridges over a period of time has come back together, and it is just well stuck in one place. And it's very healthy, the relationship between West Indies and Australia. You could see Australians gave them a guard of honor, which was very, very nice on their part to do it to both the legends of West Indian cricket. At the end of the day, when you do play sport, you play it hard on the field, but you always respect your opponent and give them the right amount of respect once they're done with it. And that's exactly what Australia did. Very magnanimous gesture from their part, and it was very good optics as well. I think the whole cricketing world must have definitely enjoyed watching that.
Yeah, I guess the only person in that lineup, other than a Matthew Wade, who wished he would have been able to have an opportunity to stand up and be counted till this point, and again, a legend of the game is Steve Smith, Zaheer. Hasn't had the opportunity. It's not that he's come and failed necessarily, but they would have liked to have a little bit more of, let's say, polishing of Stephen Smith's form before a semi-final.
When you talk about Stephen Smith, you don't really look at these kind of things. I think how you look at that Australian team. They have a right mix of power and experienced player, and Smith's role in that lineup is basically to add that anchor to their batting lineup where the power hitters can rally around. So that is something which they've been using, and hence you don't see him getting enough batting in this tournament so far. So you actually, if you're in a good position, you want Maxwell to come up the order. So that has been happening. You've seen it with England also. That is the modern that is where the modern game is evolving. So you have there is still importance of those anchor players, or players who can play that kind of a role. But when the moment you have a solid start, you want your power hitters to come into play. Teams are not waiting till actually the back end of the innings now. They want to take charge early, so that if they can get on a roll, they can prolong it and get into a really, really solid position by the time last 3 overs are to be bowled. So that has been the approach, and then you have to be versatile, and who better than someone like Steven Smith to play that kind of a role, because of his sheer experience and ability to actually play both the roles. So if situation demands, he can just be focusing on rotating, but if situation demands to play big shots, he's more than capable of doing that as well.
Just a final word on Australia. We've talked about the batting and how they might fare in the semi-final. Final word on the fact that their bowling has become a well-oiled unit, the pace bowlers, and of course Adam Zampa. Pakistan's openers maybe haven't quite faced that quality of a Stark, Hazelwood, Cummins, Zampa yet. So that too will be a bit of a challenge for a team who are looking invincible at the moment.
Yes, I think the good thing about Hazelwood is he uses the new ball perfectly. The ball that he bowled to Roston Chase today as well was a proper test match delivery, getting it out, getting it to swing a little bit out, and then pitching it off the seam and bringing it back in. He has the ability to produce test match quality deliveries up front with the new ball. And the best part about him is the fact that even though he went for 19 runs, the captain trusted him to come back and deliver, and he bowled that brilliant over and got 2 wickets. So he's got skill about him, but most importantly, I think his experience in the IPL and obviously playing international cricket over a period of time has improved his mental ability as well to deal with one of the most important attributes you need as a bowler is to come back when you've gotten hit in an over, and that he's shown very well. Pat Cummins is somebody who's probably slightly rusty for his liking, but again, even though his economy has been big, I think consistently he's been able to get wickets for them. We all know what a Mitchell Stark does. He does everything perfectly. He bowls up front and then he's there at the death for them. Zampa has been the highest wicket taker. So they've got most of the boxes ticked. The fact that Mitchell Marsh came in and bowled and did well today, along with a Maxwell who's been constantly contributing to them. The bowling unit, just like you said, Gautam, is a well-oiled unit. They're all set for the semi-final. The question is, what happens at the toss and how well they bat. That's going to decide how they're going to move forward in this tournament.
Yes, that of course is going to be Pakistan versus Australia in Dubai. Before that, there's going to be another semi-final whose personnel are not yet decided. Quick look at the points table again to wrap up these 2 games that we've had, which has completed proceedings in group number 1. The 2 Qs, England and Australia. The one near Q was South Africa. Well done to them, 8 points, but not going through. Sri Lanka played really well, but they'll go away with 4 points. Disappointment for the West Indies and Bangladesh, but an emotional send-off to Gale and Bravo for the West Indies. Now it's the big one, looking ahead to who are going to be the other semi-finalists from Pakistan's group. 3 contenders officially there: Afghanistan, New Zealand, and India. India play day after tomorrow, but tomorrow is going to be the game that decides India's fate. New Zealand and Afghanistan, because of the 2 losses early in the tournament, it's not all in India's hands. They've done the bit they needed to do, thrashed Afghanistan, thrashed Scotland, waiting to do the same to Namibia, but they need this result to go their way. Why? This is what the points table will tell the story of. India at the moment in 3rd place on 4 points. They beat Namibia, they get to 6 points, but that'll be in the last game. New Zealand win, they get to 8, match over, 2 Qs, nothing more to be done. If Afghanistan win, then of course net run rate comes into the picture, and India then have the advantage of furthering what they did against Scotland and Afghanistan and climbing over to get that 2nd spot and play the semi-final against England in Abu Dhabi. Well, how do we see the 2 teams match, gentlemen? It's going to be a big game. Not often you see a non-India game being the focus of everybody in India, DK. New Zealand against Afghanistan, you'd have to obviously say the senior team are the favourites, but Afghanistan have shown enough to show what they can show and do.
Well, for a start, I think Afghanistan, apart from their own country and their own population, they'll have another 1.3 billion people who will be cheering for them, which is very good for a start. They've played some really good cricket. I think the only game they haven't competed is the game against India, but the rest of it, against Pakistan, they did compete. They took them right down to the wire before Asif Ali hit that penultimate over 4 sixes. But They look a solid side. Their batting looks good. Their bowling obviously is dependent on a couple of the spinners. Mujibur Rahman, we saw a few videos of him training and getting ready for this game, which is good news for the India and for Afghanistan in many ways. So if they go on to put up a good performance, a very strong performance obviously will put a bit of pressure on India. But irrespective, Afghanistan need to do something to somehow find a way deep down to beat New Zealand, which is a possibility because obviously the matchups are good. They're dependent on spin. New Zealand obviously playing not the strongest batting, playing the extra bowlers. So obviously they, a couple of wickets could put pressure on them. But as we all know, New Zealand are a team which always punches a little above its weight, especially in multi-nation tournaments. So are they going to do that tomorrow in the afternoon? I guess time will tell.
Yeah, it's one of those ironies of tournament play. Just the other day, India were absolutely walloping Afghanistan, thrashing their bowlers, taking wickets, doing everything possible. Moment the game finished, "Aao bhai, now you're on our side. You've got to go and win for us." But that's the beauty of sports, Zaheer. But just looking at New Zealand's last two performances, they were not as fluent as expected. And that too against lesser opposition, shall we say. That is something that could give India hope and Afghanistan hope as well.
Well, first of all, GB, which Joyda maybe 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line is going to ask this question. Which was the game was most talked about in 2021 World Cup? And that game is New Zealand Afghanistan. Everyone has been talking about it. So yeah, before we can head to New Zealand team now, and New Zealand team is basically what matters. As you're saying, they've been looking a little scratchy. They struggled against Scotland a little bit, then against Namibia also. It was like they had to fight hard. But what matters is they managed to secure those 2 points. And what matters is their lookout now for the final game as well, which is just to get those 2 points. They don't have pressure of how they want to play it. It's just about, doesn't matter how you get it there. It's just about getting those 2 points and going to the semis. So that's what that camp will be thinking about. The Indian camp will be thinking about tomorrow's game, getting together, watching the game together. And Afghanistan will possibly be relishing the fact that there is such a tremendous support for them for tomorrow's game. And I think, that may be a distant dream for them, that, that's the way they play their cricket. They have that kind of passion. But the fan following and how the support, what support means in terms of sheer numbers and volume, I think that they'll experience it tomorrow.
Yeah, they certainly will, as long as they know how to deal with it, because India have now started over all these years, and both the gentlemen who I'm talking to know all about playing for a nation who are behind you, but also expecting so much of you. So DK, they should let the expectation be a positive for them and not let it pressurize them in any way, looking over their shoulders and seeing 1.3 billion plus.
Yeah, in the World Cup 2011, I remember, I think Sachin Paji was giving this statement, I think, or maybe Paddy Upton, I'm not very sure, doesn't matter. But pressure is a privilege. And, you can look at 1.3 billion and say, oh, there's so much pressure. Or you can say there is 1.3 billion people hoping that we'll do something special. I think Afghanistan need to look at that as not a pressure, but a privilege. The fact that there is so many people that will be cheering for them. And if they can pull off a miraculous victory, that'll be fabulous, not only for them as a country, but also for India, because that'll give India a great chance to qualify as well. So they have it. They'll feel what it is to be in India's shoes for once when they play tomorrow, which is big boots to fill in many ways. To play for India is no joke. And to keep constantly playing under that kind of pressure is not easy as well. So they'll feel it. They'll know what the love they'll get tomorrow. I'm pretty sure there'll be a lot of people cheering for Afghanistan, and a lot of them will be Indians.
But just to build on Zahir's point about the question I asked about New Zealand, and yes, they were a little scratchy in those two games, but the fact is they got over the line. And like we talked about ticking boxes, they found that the lower order is able to deliver for them. And again, if you look at law of averages, someone like Kane Williamson will not fall short 3 times in a row. So that's another cause for worry for Afghanistan.
Well, I think from New Zealand's point of view, GB, it's just about going out there and doing that. I was just thinking about, what's going to happen if say New Zealand wins tomorrow or they lose tomorrow, right? So New Zealand wins tomorrow, they will be playing against England. So they have that one account to settle. So, so they will be all charged up to really settle the account of 2019 finals there. And if India goes through, then it's going to be a really a great game of cricket, which we know that how two teams play, and with the momentum right now of not really seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, to going through is going to be amazing. So from that point of view, I think that's the motivation New Zealand will have for tomorrow. They'll be thinking that tomorrow's game is important. Not only that we're going to the semis, but we have a chance to knock England out and then play the finals. So I think that's good enough motivation to have to get everything going. The game is going to be played in Abu Dhabi, so I think that's one thing which is going against Afghanistan. I feel New Zealand, if New Zealand were playing Afghanistan in Sharjah, maybe you had a better chance. Not after looking at today's wicket, maybe the wicket, this sort of wicket would have helped New Zealand. But nonetheless, so far, Abu Dhabi track has been the most batting friendly tracks in the tournament. And looking at that, New Zealand can breathe relatively easy. So even though Mujib is playing, it's not going to be that much of a factor, I feel, just because so far we've seen that the track in Abu Dhabi has been batting friendly.
Well, just a final word. I know we have these theoretical discussions at times, but if you were an Indian supporter, and you are, what would be your preferred result of the toss in terms of that particular game? What gives Afghanistan a better chance to win, like their preferred suit, batting first, put New Zealand under pressure?
Just go back in the tournament, or just go back few matches what Afghanistan has been doing. They actually thought too much before they played against India. They moved away from what they've been doing so far in the tournament, which is they kept the game simple. They were like, okay, we're going to win the toss, we're going to bat first, we're going to put runs on board, and then our bowlers are going to come into play. But against India, they were actually overthinking about the game and saying that, okay, let's bowl first, look at the conditions. That's not how they play cricket. So I think from Afghanistan's point of view, if they have to win tomorrow's game, they just have to go out there and do things which has worked for them so far, which is win the toss, bat first. They've not been really looking at the conditions. Just do that, back yourself, and enjoy the game. That's what happens, right? Like, when you have something to lose, suddenly the game seems different. And when you're just going out there following your processes, it becomes easier and easier. So I think, Afghanistan is caught up in that dilemma at the moment, where they're seeing that there is a possibility of them qualifying for the semis. And that's where things have started to just go shaky a bit. It's just the pressure. It's just something which maybe anxiety you call it, or things which you've never experienced before. So it's a learning curve for them. But it's still amazing of them to reach to this level where there is still a chance for them to qualify for the semis.
DK, you agree? That's their best chance?
Absolutely. I'm 100% with Zach on this. I think they play their best cricket when they bat first and post a total anywhere between 140 and 150. And they do have the bowling attack to defend it. So that's the way they should be thinking.
Well, everything to look forward to tomorrow. We could discuss it threadbare. It's what happens on the field in Abu Dhabi tomorrow afternoon, where 1.3 billion eyes will be on that game to see what happens with India. And then, of course, it should be a formality for India against Namibia the next day to get over the line. Maybe a bit of a net run rate issue, but most likely it's not even going to be that. The second game of the day tomorrow is just going to be a bit of net practice, I reckon, for Pakistan. They've already qualified, and they've got just a nice little outing in Sharjah before they go to the semi-final in Dubai. How do you treat a game like this, DK? Knowing the good cricket that you've played so far, any particular way you want to approach this, other than, of course, wanting to win big and keep that winning feeling going?
Ideally, how I would look at it is, if I was a captain, go and win it as clinically as possible. But what Pakistan did against Namibia was they kind of put themselves under stress by batting first and, trying to put up a total, and so that they could bowl with a wet ball. I'm sure if they want to try that as well, is not a bad option, because it's not a bad idea to give the bowlers the opportunity to bowl with the dew, obviously, which makes it hard. They're going to be playing the same ground as well when they play the semi-finals. So there's no harm in doing that. I'm very sure, irrespective of whether they bat first or bat second, they'll win very, very convincingly. But it's a question of, if you do bat first, then you give a chance for a lot of the batters to bat as well, which is something that Pakistan needs as well, especially that middle order. Some of them have batted only a few balls, so it'll be good to see the Shoaib Maliks and Mohammad Hafiz come out and score big runs, a 50 or a 60, which will definitely boost their confidence as well. And more importantly, get the spinners to bowl with a wet ball, which is something they've not done so much in this tournament, which is something that they could practice as well.
Just to clarify, DK, it won't be the same venue. They're playing in Sharjah tomorrow night, and they will, of course, be heading to Dubai for the semi-final. But still, practice is practice. I mean, the dew could be the same in Sharjah as it is in Dubai. Zaheer, from Scotland's point of view, Again, all the associate nations, we've been saying it all along. Wonderful story. They'll just want to get a little bit more out of this. We saw how they were sort of like a sponge absorbing in the India game, even though it was one that they got soundly beaten.
Absolutely, nothing changes there. It's just about embracing the situation, going out there, enjoying the game, and take as much as learning as possible. Absorb as much as you can, so that you can prepare better. So the same Super 12 teams are going to be qualified for the next World Cup. So you know that in 1 year's time you'll be playing again. So that's something which is good enough motivation for, and good enough homework for you to do. So that should be the lookout. Intent has to be there. It's not about the result. It's about going out there, showing that intent, and then competing. So those are the things which are going to remain the same for them. They're on their own journey right now, and that's how they should approach the game.
DK, any lessons for you from a Scottish perspective after that India game? Anything they can take from there and do a little bit differently against Pakistan?
Oh, I think they obviously they were blown out by India's bowling, but overall their batting has been something that has been pretty decent, and they have one bowler, Mark Watt, who's bowled really well through the tournament. So again, they'll be dependent on it. But for me, what I would like to see is they'll be challenged initially, not so much by spin, but by fast bowling, and some real quality fast bowlers at that. So that'll be a very interesting tussle. The Shaheen Shah Afridis, the Haris Rauf, and Hassan Ali. Obviously, Imad Wasim will bowl a couple of overs up front, but he's not a spin bowler per se. He relies more on the swing that he gets initially with the new ball, and he tries to bowl a good length, which makes it harder to hit. So there is no question of which way it's turning. It's about whether they can play him off and play some good shots against him. But the biggest challenge will be up front with the new ball, whether that batting lineup will be able to retaliate to the pace of a Shaheen Shah Afridi, a Hassan Ali, and a Haris Rauf.
Yeah, just for the record, if Scotland were somehow to get over Pakistan, it doesn't change Pakistan's qualification scenario. They still get through. They had a queue. They were the first team in the tournament to have a queue next to their name. And believe it or not, England didn't have a queue till they scored 85 runs in today's run chase. They were not officially in the semi-finals. They now are. So are Australia. So are Pakistan. It's now between New Zealand, India, and an outside chance for Afghanistan if they were to beat New Zealand soundly, and India weren't able to get over Namibia with that sort of a net run rate. But at the moment, Afghanistan's qualification seems very slim. What they can do is finish on a high and do India a massive, massive favor. Well, that's all as far as these two games are concerned for today and for tomorrow. One little bit of information to provide all of you. That's the answer to today's Joy Factor question. The question again: this cricketer was born in Johannesburg and has played 24 ODIs. His first T20I was against Sri Lanka in 2011. His last T20I was against Germany. That's an interesting one. Is it different countries or name the cricketer? Let's see the answer. And the answer is Jade Dernbach, former England international. And the reason why he's played Germany very recently is because he's now playing for Italy. Of course, Jade Dernbach, the tattoo man, very much a part of England's lineup, has more tattoos than anyone in the world put together. I can promise you that. He had what's called a sleeve, a tattoo all the way down his arm. But now he plays for Italy. Maybe he feels at home with the tattoos there. But who's our winner? Who spotted the Dernbach question first and foremost? And it is Saranga _06. Welcome, Saranga, to our Cricbuzz Live family, because we are getting newer and newer questions, or newer and newer answerers, shall we say. It's not a word, I just made that up. But well done. We'll keep more of you coming in. Just about time to say thank you to Dinesh Karthik. Thank you to Zaheer Khan. We're all looking forward to New Zealand against Afghanistan tomorrow. All of India awaits. From Cricbuzz Live, it's good night.